So today we're going to be looking at the betting markets and seeing where $100+ million in gambling is predicting this 2024 election right now. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with the general consensus. This is what a bunch of nerds are saying with surveys, that Donald Trump is winning the general election in a 1v1 by 0.4%. If we put in RFK, Jill Stein, and Cornel West, we have a prediction that has Trump winning by 1.3 on aggregate. That being said, though, we ought to be looking at what millionaires are saying. We have about $114.6 million bet already on this website alone, Polymarket, where we have Donald Trump at 44% and Biden at a 44%. As you can see here on the numbers over here on the left, you can see that Joe Biden still has almost $1 million more bet on himself. That being said, some crazy people have been spending money on Michelle Obama and RFK Jr. Now, their crack money is going to waste because neither of those candidates are even going to sniff a close third place in this election. But let's get closer to the results. As we can see here, there is a prediction level that is somewhat equitable. It's 44 to 44 to 4. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, is that RFK typically pulls at about 10%. He's at less than half. When people get money on the line, when you put skin in the game, they don't think RFK has a shot, which co-aligns with reality. Now, what's interesting about this is that we have the popular vote pretty even, 44 to 44. So let's go into the specific state maps and see what goes on. Today, we're going to be filling out exactly what map is going to be predicted by the money itself. Okay, so Floyd Mayweather, the money team. Again, if you gambled on Ryan Garcia, my cousin, you just won. You joined the money team. We're going to do the exact same thing with this election. Of course, it's a little more complicated because there are some loonies that have Wyoming, for example. 6% of people voted on Biden winning Wyoming with their own money. It's insane. But anyway, we're going to translate this literally onto this map right now. All right, so we've got more of it shaded in. Let's look into the particulars of each state. First, we're going to start off with, we're going to do Virginia. So Virginia has a 90% odds of Biden winning it. That's according to the money team. Now, that being said, of course, gamblers are leaving it a 10% chance, which is interesting because some people are saying that Virginia is going to be contested, which I really doubt. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to look at Maine. Maine, we're going to keep completely blue because it doesn't have it segregated by congressional district, which is the way the electoral count is done. Same thing with Nebraska. It doesn't get into particulars. It probably won't shape up this result anyway. We're going to move on to another state, the least likely of which is going to be Colorado. Again, New Mexico, both equally 92% Democrat, despite the fact that these were a couple points removed in 2020 as a result on aggregate. But anyway, moving on, we're going to do the next most likely state, which I think is going to be Minnesota. Minnesota, despite Biden being tied and it being close in 2016, still has a Democratic lead in terms of funding of 86 to 14, which is insane. So that's a safe blue margin, relatively speaking. We'll fill that in. Now, moving on, we're going to do Ohio, which I think is going to be pretty not close. Anyway, 92% chance that Trump wins that. So that's pretty obvious. So let's fill that in. Now, what's interesting is that, again, Florida is one where the money might divert from where the polls are, but in fact, in this case, it doesn't. So 89% of people are funding the Republicans winning Florida in this case, whereas 11% goes to the Democrats. That's an easy dub for Republicans. But moving on, I think North Carolina is probably the next closest one. That's going to be a 72 to 28. So people say it's a battleground state. Over 2/3 of people putting their money on the line are saying it won't be, and Trump's going to win that outright. Moving on, I believe the next state in contention is going to be Michigan. Now, Michigan, if you look at this, is actually 57 to 43% pro-Democrat. Now, that's in conflict with Trump winning it by upwards of 3% in the most recent polls, which is interesting to me. But anyway, we're going to move on to Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is interesting because this one's going to be closer to Michigan, but still 53 to 47% pro-Democrat, which is very odd. So let's put that in. So blue and blue. Now, moving to the other state of Pennsylvania, you have 59 to 41. So this is actually the furthest left out of all these, which is nuts so. But anyway, you've seen some polls where Biden's winning it in the average. Now, that's with some very biased sampling. But even still, I guess you could see this going blue. So 267 to 238, already really close. Let's move on. So Georgia is another state that's really close. And that has a 59 to 41% lead for Trump, which is interesting because, again, the guy did terrible there in 2020 and is bad there for a Republican just overall. But we're going to move on to Arizona, which is a state that Trump's winning by over 5 despite this whole abortion fiasco. We have Trump narrowly leading the state by 4%, 52 to 48. So where the money is, we're going to put it right here. Okay, so 265 to 267, super close. Again, Nevada is not too far. Now, Nevada, for whatever reason, if you look at the actual polls, has Trump winning by upwards of 3% in the surveys, but yet Democrats are putting 60% into the gambling of the state now, which is interesting because a lot of gamblers are obviously in Vegas and they're putting the money as the state that they're in right now going blue, which is odd. But anyway, those degenerates might be wrong in November. We've got a result of 273 to 265. Again, this does not really match up with the polling on Real Clear Politics or any other website for that matter, because those are asking a very balanced, diverse set of people, whereas this is just people that are really political nerds with money in their hands, and they're saying it's going to go down like this. Now, what's very novel about this result and this sort of polling is that we're looking at not so much what a pundit says who's getting paid to say something, but instead people that are losing money in predicting something of their own volition. And again, it's interesting because the people that do gamble on elections tend to be right, because if they were to be wrong all the time, then they'd obviously lose all their money at that point. So this is very odd. Now, if you look at other circumstances, if we look at Predict It, which is the most prominent gambling site for this, you'll notice right away that apparently Trump's coinage has gone down. So his stock was him winning as of last month, and now Biden's actually surging for whatever reason, to the point where Biden's at 55% odds of winning, whereas Trump is down at 44, which is interesting. And RFK is down at like a 4%, 3%, whatever, 5. So, I mean, that kind of tells you what you need to know there. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and commit to my syndicate, as well as like and share this video. Comment down below if you agree with the gambling. If you want to gamble on this election, tell me what you're going to put your money on. I'm curious. I'm a broke college student, so I don't really have a say here, but it's interesting to see what the money team says. And anyway, shout out to Ryan Garcia. Let's freaking go. All right, adios.